Welcome back, everybody. I'm your host, Owen Hayes, and you're watching Outdoor GPS right here on Comcast Sportsnet. And we're fortunate enough to have Brian Wolfer on the line right now. We've been talking about opportunities for Westside spring bear. Now, myself, like if you were just with us before the commercial break, I have yet to take a bear, and I have tried very, very hard. And some of my buddies out there, if they're watching, are probably rolling on the ground right now, because where we hunt on the east side, everybody in camp sees bears. I never seem to find them. And I'm always usually the only one that's actually specifically trying to harvest one. Now, have you ever run across something like that yourself, Roger? Is there ever anything that you want to get into so bad, but it just kind of hands itself to you every time?
That can happen, and in particular, that can really happen with bears. You know, bears, it takes a little while to learn where to find them, how to find them consistently. So it's a bit of a learning process. One of the things that I'm trying to learn how to do myself to get into bears a little more consistently is when you do find abundant sign, sometimes you're just a few days too late. Right. And so making note of those patches of whatever it is, skunk cabbage, a swamp area in the spring, or in the fall season, blackberries or huckleberries, when you find that patch that's been really hit hard by the bears, but you just missed it by 2 days, remembering where that is, making sure that you check on it next year, and when you find the first sign of bear activity, to actually spend a lot of time there, because you know the bear's going to be spending time there in the near future. That's kind of a key. And so, you know, sometimes it's a little hard to scout for the current season you're in, but if you use the current season to learn things for next year, it's really going to help you.
So basically, you're trying to establish some sort of a pattern, what the bears are actually targeting specifically from the time frame that you're actually out there. So again, so you can roll it over to the next season. Would you agree that if you found a patch of either berries or some of the grasses that they like to eat, if you find it again that hasn't been hammered on too hard, is that a place that you might want to hang out for a day or so just to check it out and see what actually comes into that area?
Yeah, in the spring season, you know, the bears don't have a whole lot of options out there. They're hitting a lot of grasses, and some swamp stuff and a lot of green up, and some logs where they can get it. And so when you find a lot of sign at a lower elevation that you just kind of missed that window on, look to move up in elevation where the snow may have recently melted off, and look for that same type of stuff that's just coming on, because a lot of times people end up hunting just a little late for the spot that they're in.
Makes absolutely perfect sense. It seems to be the way that even, you know, again, I'm referring to the east side. That's the only area that I've spent time chasing bears. But the season before last, that was kind of what we ran into, at least for myself. We would either be too high in the snow line or too low. And when we did find sign, it was basically exactly like you just described. We found it because they were already there, not that they were intending on coming back. So by all means, folks, that's a great tip. And, you know, one of the things that I learned, and I'm only going to interject this quickly because this is Brian's time, but be patient. Stick with the spot. If you know there's an area that the bears are coming in to feed and work, don't get over anxious like myself and get up and move. I can't tell you, more often than not, I have sat in a spot that I knew animals, bear in particular, were either coming through or going to feed, and I wouldn't spend the time to actually make it happen, go back the next day, see fresh sign, and know that I just blew an opportunity. So patience is obviously very important. Now, always a question that I ask any of the folks from ODFW, Brian, I always ask if somebody was brand new, they had no idea where to go, they got you on the phone, and this is what they wanted to do, they got a tag, they want to go to the west side, what would be a great place to start? Let's just say they're going into the ALC unit. What would be a good way to start? What would you recommend?
I don't work in the ALC unit a lot. I do work in a little bit of the Siuslaw, but in general,
perfect.
When you're
How about just for the Siuslaw area?
The coast range, look if you can get into some of the private timber ground because of the harvest that's happened there. Some of those relatively fresh units that are getting a nice springtime sun and getting that spring grass flush is what you're looking for. Also a swamp with some skunk cabbage. But if you can get private timberland, you're going to need permission to access it, and you know that's not always a guarantee, but that's a good bet. If you're looking on national forest, there may be some old cuts that have some food on them, or some grassed-in old logging roads that don't have vehicle traffic on them, and those bears will be grazing in the grass along those roads. And those are some good bets. when you're looking at the Cascades, a lot of it's the same idea, but if you're looking on the National Forest, you've got some of the higher elevation grassy meadows and glades that are going to come on a little bit later in May, mid to late May, and those can be good bets also.
Now, the season that's going on over on the west side, it opens in April. Is it the first week of April?
It's April 1st.
Okay, and how long does that actually go through? Does it go through the end of May?
It goes through the end of May, so a person's got 2 months. Earlier in the season, we tend to see the boars get out of the dens and become active a little bit earlier. You always want to be careful when you see a bear that you take the time to look at it and make sure that it's not a sow with cubs, because a sow with cubs of the year are protected. And those cubs that are going to come out this spring are going to be pretty small. You're looking at something that's the size of a Cocker Spaniel, and that can be a little hard to spot there in the brush.
Sure.
So you want to take the time to look at them good if you can do it. And that's why finding them in some of these clear cuts is real nice, because you get a bear out in the open where you really get a chance to watch it for a few minutes and see what it's with and what it's doing, and make sure you know what you're shooting at.
Yeah, and hopefully the one that you find is solo all by itself, got a big head and a belly that drags on the ground, which is what everybody's looking for if you're a bear hunter.
There's definitely a few of those out there.
Yeah, I mean, just a quick story. I mean, one of the reasons why I got into bear hunting, I've been in elk camp for many years and only hunted elk and deer for a few years, but the very first bear I ever saw gave me such a heart attack. I saw such a beautiful animal. I was like, God, I want to have one of those on my wall or something, and yet, that was the last one that I saw.
Yep.
That just is the way it goes. Well, Brian, thank you very much for taking the time to talk with us. Great information. And for everybody out there, we've been showing all of his information so that you can get a hold of Brian. If you're going to go and chase these spring bears over on the west side, give Brian a call. The guy will be happy to give you any info that they can. And if he's not available, just get a hold of anybody there at ODFW. They are a wealth of information, and they will help you get into the right areas and guide you into the right direction so that you can take your bear and actually, hopefully put a nice mount on the wall. And I got to tell you, they're great steaks too. Don't think that they're not good eating. But hey, Brian, thank you very much for taking the time to talk with us.
Okay, thank you, Owen.
You bet. We'll talk again, hopefully in the midst of the season. Hopefully we can find out a little bit more what's going on with yourself.
Okay.
All right, sir. Take care.
Okay.
And again, great info. And again, I know I mentioned this earlier. ODFW is a great source of information. They are a wealth of info, and they are more than willing to give you as much information as they can. And if they can't find the info that you're looking for when you contact them, they will get that info for you. So by all means, always use them as a tool. Now, we will be back in a little bit to wrap up the show. I'll give you an idea of what I'm going to have for you for tomorrow and on Sunday, some of the stuff that I've been up to. So hopefully you'll get a chance to see us tomorrow and Sunday if you're not on the water. But if you are at home, you're going to want to see us. So be back here in just a couple of minutes.